Hi everyone, welcome to another video. Usually on this channel I like to talk about map development or game development or modding and that sort of thing on this channel. But it's usually things like first person shooters or building games, that sort of thing, whether it is intentional modding or unintentional modding. So for instance, Quake 3 and Doom 1 and 2 have intentional modding capabilities, so it's easy to mod those games and to create our own maps. Then you have other games that are not intended to be modded, but then you have some games that intend to encourage, well, they encourage user-made content to such a degree that you don't even need to mod the game to have some new and cool content, some new and interesting environments or that sort of thing. And this is definitely true when it comes to, stuff like The Sims, SimCity. But the thing is that those are not action games. They're not like your first-person shooters, for instance. And yes, in Doom, Doom 2016, we did have Snap Map, which was like that, but it was so modular, so incredibly modular that, well, for starters, all of the rooms that you can place in any order you want them to be, any position in the map you want them to be, but they're still the same rooms. And very often when I play a Snap Map, I would enter a room and I would just be reminded of the other Snap Maps that I had already played. I was like, oh, I remember this room. And it doesn't have as much of an identity as something that is a lot more customizable. And so when it comes to shooters or platformers or racing games, there's not a lot of games that let you create, that gives you a lot of flexibility of map creation to the extent that something like this game does, which is TrackMania. And TrackMania is a franchise that started all the way back in 2003, but trust me, back in 2003 it was dirt simple. It was a very, very basic track building game. But ever since, I guess I would say, starting with TrackMania Sunrise, and I think ultimately it all accumulates and builds to the finale, which I refer to as TrackMania United Forever, which I think is the probably the pinnacle of the franchise. There is just so many cool things that you can do building tracks. And here's the thing, even though usually I cover videos about, sort of first-person shooters, that sort of thing, I think that a lot of us are really into racing games, especially racing games that have that sort of that same fast-paced thrill to it that we experience in something like Doom. And TrackMania is not a very realistic racer. It's fast, it's frantic, it's crazy. It's everything I love about video games. And I think that this is something that I want more people to look into, because TrackMania is an incredibly underrated game. First of all, it is hugely successful and very popular in Europe, but not very popular in, like, America, for instance, for some weird reason. Not sure why, because there's nothing about it that screams European. It is made by a European company, Nadeo, who's owned by Ubisoft, and yes, they are also based in France, but just like Ubisoft, that also has a US following, I believe that Nadeo has the potential for a huge US following. It's just that they, for some reason, have been struggling to get into the Western market. And I have a couple of theories why that's an issue, but I think I should just show you guys why I think this is such a fantastic map building utility for a racing game, as opposed to a map building utility for a first-person shooter or platformer or what have you. Now, TrackMania, there's many different TrackMania games, but there is one specific version called TrackMania Nations Forever, which is the free counterpart to TrackMania United Forever. Now, there is earlier versions of Nations and United, just simply called TrackMania Nations and TrackMania United, but the version you want is Nations Forever because it's the free version and you can download it and you can play it, and it doesn't restrict you in any way outside of these additional environments that United has to offer. But you do have full access to the stadium environment. So, and just to show you how easy it is, so you got your mouse here. You got your mouse wheel that lets you scroll up and down, so you can change the height. And if you hold Alt and then right click, hold the right click button, you can then rotate the camera. Left click lets you move the camera, and mouse wheel, Alt with mouse wheel, zooms in and zooms out. So if I were to just do a very quick track, won't take me very long. Okay, so I want to start. Let's start from the top. All right, so these little tracks, you can just, do that, and then even if they're not oriented correctly, they will be oriented the proper way, depending on what direction you are placing them. Anyways, okay, now we need to go, and these special blocks down here, we need to go to, okay, so this is the start block. Green is start, red is finish, and blue is the checkpoint. So there is our starting block. So I spent a lot of time, like quite a few years in fact. Let me see, so these are the ramps and the slopes. So we're gonna use these. I spent a long time building TrackMania tracks, and it is just so rewarding. If you guys are into building maps for Doom, and you also happen to like racing games, you will love this. I can tell you that. And also this is because this is a basic mechanic of this game, that this is the main selling point of this game. It's actually much easier to build a track in TrackMania than to build a map for Doom or for other first-person shooters. Now, you can ignore laws of physics. You don't have to have columns that hold structures up, but if you want realism, they actually do give you structures that let you place. Let's see. It's this. No, it's not that. Here we are. So they do let you place, things that can hold up a structure. So like here, for instance, we can just place this here so that it doesn't look so stupid. And it's like, yeah, it's been held up, so it doesn't look ridiculous. Still looks ridiculous, but not as ridiculous. Anyways. Okay, so I guess, and yeah, unfortunately there isn't a column that can connect with a ramp, so you're just gonna have to leave that the way that it is. But that's okay. This game is not supposed to be realistic. Actually, you know what? I want to add a booster there. Let's see. Boosters are under special, and yeah, here they are. So everything you see here is exactly the same in Nations Forever. I'm obviously using United Forever because you saw those other environments like the rally, the snow, the desert, and all of that. But the stadium, it's exactly the same. Another thing you can do is if you hold Control, you can highlight stuff, you click on it and it will copy the object, so you don't have to look for it in the I guess you could say the blocks section. These are referred to as blocks, even though they're not necessarily blocks, but they do have a sort of a blocky grid system in place. So you can't have stuff overlap or go through each other, because if they take up the same block space, then you cannot place two objects there at the same time. But by the way, this thing here, as you can see, we're going from the sort of the normal road to a sort of a grate or grill type of road, as you can see. And the reason why we need to have this change is because we're going to use these grates. And let's see, let's add, you know, let's do the old school traditional. Yeah, that should do. I think that then again, maybe I should go a little higher. Yeah. And this all just comes with experience. You learn what the car can or cannot do. For instance, I know for a fact that I'm gonna need a straight, that's probably a little too high. I need a little straight, I guess you could say, wall to guide the car up to the top of the ramp. Well, it's not a ramp anymore, it's more like a half pipe or quarter pipe. Actually, it's 3/4 pipes, whatever it's called. And just to give you an idea how this will work, in fact, maybe if I can just take this, now that's gonna block it. I guess this should be enough. So what you can do, as long as you have an entrance and an exit, so you can just place an exit wherever for now, and then you can move it to when you're done building the track. And you can just test by clicking on the flag. Very simple. To see if it's possible, if this thing isn't, you know, okay, there we go, it works. And then we just keep going on. Now, of course, if you build a really long track, like, what, do I have to start all the way right at the beginning every time I want to test it? No, you don't have to. You can click on the car logo, and you see it's got an arrow there, a 3D arrow. It shows you where the car will be facing, also what height the car is. So you can test it anywhere in the environment. They're very considerate. So okay, so I've got this part. Now we can add, let's try some of these blocks here. These are actually, you know what, let's go to these instead. I will admit sometimes they do place things in, oh. Okay, get used to that. That's gonna happen a lot. You're gonna be like, okay, it's supposed to go there, but then when you rotate, you realize you're on a completely different plane of existence. Yeah, it's gonna happen quite a few times. Anyways, yeah, it happens a lot. So you just have to be mindful of little dumb things like that. So it's always fun just to create crazy sort of tracks and stuff like that. Just have maybe a little curvature thing here. Now, obviously, I'm just placing the fundamental aspects of a track. I'm not actually trying to make it look pretty. I would recommend that you do that last, which, you know, I would recommend that you do that with all games and not just with TrackMania, including if you're building the map for Doom. Definitely stick with just making stuff look nice once you have the layout of the map settled and you're happy with the design. We can add some obstacles, I guess. Maybe let's add a hole to annoy players. Actually, come to think of it, why don't we do this? This might actually be pretty funny. So what? So maybe you have to ramp over it. I don't know if that's going to work. Again, you just have to experiment. You just have to see what works and what doesn't work. Let's just use this. We don't even need to select a ramp. Like this will work perfectly fine as a ramp. Then maybe we can have another platform up here. Actually, you know what, let's have it. Make sure that we're on the same plane of existence. Actually, that looks pretty difficult. Let's go a little lower. Alright, that should be okay. And then we can curve it straight and then have it become a road again by using, it's not there, where was it? It's right there. probably missed it. No, I didn't miss it. So it's actually under this. It's not under these. It's under this thing for whatever reason. Anyways, so we can highlight that so we don't have to look for it in the map editor or the block section, block selection menu. Now I think you have to have a checkpoint. Yeah, I think let's add a checkpoint here. Fortunately, I know for a fact that TrackMania United and Nations Forever definitely has a slanted checkpoint on a slanted platform. So I think we go here somewhere. So I'm just going through everything trying to find this bloomin'. It has to be under some other option. Maybe here. No, wait, it's here. Okay, all right, cool. Oh, and I happen to pick the right block. Oops. By the way, right-clicking rotates. I forgot to mention that, but I'm sure you'd figure it out. They actually have like a help. Let's see, like a question mark or something, or maybe help. There we go. There's the controls. Yeah. Yeah, so we can test it before we beautify this map. In fact, one thing I would like to do is I'd like to add some probably no, here it is. Okay, cool. I'm gonna add a few of these. I like it that it actually corrects itself if it's like if you get it backwards, like it will actually. Whoa, okay, never mind. I guess it just was a fluke. Anyways, just to speed things up so that it's not so slow and annoying. Okay. Ah! Okay, that's why we test. Oh, that's funny. Okay, so man, we got whacked there. I think what we need is we need a flat platform. Yeah, and that actually kind of messes up everything. Yeah, because now everything is different. So we're gonna have to move this. That's not gonna work. Oh, I hate it when this happens. Yeah, that just changes everything. Okay. Okay, well, I think one thing I will do is I'll just... Yeah, I think I'll just do this. I think this is the best thing to do. Nope, still the same problem. Yeah, come across these little hiccups along the way. There we go. Okay. Now we can test it again. Okay, so that's kind of overkill, I'll admit. Maybe if we just get rid of... Yeah, I think let's make it... Let's make it here. Yeah, I think that should be okay. Okay, this might be better if we did it like... You know what, I actually like the idea. Okay, you know what, let's just do that. I think that's fine. Good enough. It's not the smoothest ride ever. Right now, let's see if this works. Yes, it does work. And it takes us over. That's actually kind of cool because that means we'll be able to offer like a shortcut for, and hopefully that checkpoint's enough to get across there. Yes, it is. Yeah, it's just all trial and error. I'm not going to try to make a perfect track. I'm just going to Wow, okay, let's try that again. Now, you can restart the track completely with the timer completely reset, if you don't mind starting right at the beginning. Okay. Now, you want to do the fastest time possible, because that is what the gold, silver, and bronze medals will be scaled to. They'll be scaled relative to your fastest time. So, like for instance, if you do a track in like 30 seconds, gold might be 35 seconds, silver maybe can be 45 seconds, and bronze can be 55 seconds. So that's what it bases it on. Now, I will admit that even though I don't want this to be a perfect, a perfect map, I do think that there's a lot more improvements we can make here. So let's do that. Now, you might think, man, this guy's taking such a long time just tweaking the map. Well, actually, that's the fun part of it. Building it is like whatever. He's like, oh, let's just put a road here, and maybe we'll put a platform there, or maybe a boost pad there or something. But the real fun is just refining it and finding the most optimal, most fun way of playing one of these tracks, and also including these sort of shortcuts that a lot of the time you discover these shortcuts unintentionally, like you don't always plan them, and they end up being a really cool aspect of your map. Okay, so that would be great if I could just land. Yeah, so that's, again, that's just a, a high skill thing. Actually, you know what? I think I know what I'm gonna do. I think what I'm gonna do instead, the real problem is that this thing is round, so it's actually throwing me off. So what if we just add a little, let's see, maybe, no, not those. I think it's maybe this. All right, no, not that one. I think there's a steeper one. Yeah, that one. Okay. I don't think that's going to. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna actually go over that. I think it's probably not gonna work. But again, you have to test it. You don't know if it's gonna work or not. So just testing it. That's really interesting. I think I'm gonna keep that. Now, you could just save this map and be all like, okay, well, there's my map. But again, it looks a bit weird. So we can make it look a little nicer. Again, adding columns. And you see they even add little places where you can place the columns. So it looks more convincing. You don't have to place them on all of them. It just looks nicer. It just looks more like an actual structure and not just this weird alien thing that you built in this game. Now that you have your track, now we can make it look nicer with these barriers here. Actually, we need a slope. Something for slope. Well, okay, let's do the straight ones first. And yes, these do take up one block, even though they take up only about a third of a block. So actually they take up one block, but it's a double height block. So you can see that this is like a normal size block. But this, you can see this actually ironically takes up more space than these platforms here. So I only use these decorative elements if I've got space for them. There are sequels to Nations called TrackMania Stadium, and even TrackMania Turbo has a stadium environment which is identical to this as well. TrackMania Turbo is a consoleized version of this game. It's more restrictive being a console port, but at least it has split screen multiplayer, which the PC versions don't have. So that game is still worth checking out, if not only for the multiplayer aspects. Speaking of multiplayer, all of the games, especially the PC versions, have really, really good online support. There's literally millions of people playing these games. And it just cracks me up to think that there's people that have never heard of this game before. A little thing that helps me save time is if you want the same object but that is mirrored or reversed or something like that, you can highlight the object that it's most similar to, and very likely you'll find its symmetrical sibling on the same menu, so it will save you time trying to find these blocks. That's the thing that's great about TrackMania, is that they didn't build amazing tracks and then the editor was an afterthought. What they did is they would first build the editor with all of the blocks, and then they would build the tracks in the main campaign to act as sort of as like an example of what you can do with this editor. You know, just like how building Doom maps are not limited. You can build them to the same quality that the original maps were. In fact, a lot of the time the quality is very often is much higher than the professionals, because the professionals, you know, they would have, oh, you know, like Sandy Peterson working on Doom, he only had like 3 months to work on what, like 20 maps or something like that. It was a ridiculous amount. It was a lot of maps that he had to work on in such a short space of time, so a lot of shortcuts had to be taken. But with Doom, with the Doom mapping community, people can spend as much time as they want to work on the map, and that's why it's much easier to come across very impressive looking maps that is from the community, not necessarily from the creators of Doom itself. Now my OCD is kicking in. I'm such a perfectionist. I don't have to have a column there, but it just looks better. Usually you can just end a platform like that, or you can do this. That just looks way nicer. And of course, now, as you can see, I can't add a border to this block here because this is taking up the space, so you can't place it there. The fan community have actually created a tool that lets you edit the map files outside of the game. So if you were to place these 3 objects here, and then you can go into the map editor, and then you can just change the Z axis for the 3 most recently placed blocks, like minus 1, I think. Yeah, is it -1? No, it's -2. So it's 1, 2. You just do that, and then you go back into the game, and then boom, these things are there. However, that does result in some glitches, so I would not recommend doing that, because when you want to remove them, then you're going to run into some problems in the map editor. So you have to remove them in the text editor, which is so much harder to do than one might think. So I came up with other ways of doing it. This looks weird, but I actually kind of like how this looks. I use this a lot in many of my maps. I know for a fact that there's a round slope. There we go. It's not that one. Is it this one? Yeah. Okay. Then we just need to grab a sample. It's not there. So I guess we'll just have to look for the old-fashioned way. So it looks almost like an opening, like a mouth kind of thing. Actually, come to think of it, I think I'm gonna hit my head on that thing. So I need to make it. I actually need to make it taller. All right, so let's do this. Decided to move this back a bit. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Let's do this. Maybe that's overkill. Okay, now it looks way nicer. And you can add some more decorations here and there. You can, I don't know what the heck this thing is supposed to be. You can just do, I don't know. just interesting, weird architecture. Okay, and there's a whole bunch of other decorations we can use. Like, you know, we're like, sure, we're in a stadium, but the spectators that sit there, it's like it's so far away they can't see. So let's have some spectator like buildings and these rather futuristic looking buildings. Let's have it be an interesting shape. It's almost like an airport terminal. Yeah, and you can even have a little structure like this. Then we can use one of these. Yeah, and then we can of course use the good old pillars that we've used a lot before. All right. So we got some stuff going on here. We can also add some water, decorative water stuff. Yeah, just to add character to it. Yeah, there's just so many cool things you can do with this game. In fact, I'm gonna do this instead. I'm gonna add like maybe some kind of mini stadium inside of the big stadium. Now this game, even though technically this game came out in 2008, it's actually just an update to a game that came out in 2006. So anyone with a somewhat capable PC will have no problems running this game. Let's have a little entrance there. I think it would look really cool if I just left this big opening here, even though you won't really see it, but oh well. world building. Sometimes people won't appreciate every little bit of world building that you put in your maps. Okay, I better save this. I'm gonna call it slide, because it's like you're going down a slide. Alright, compute shadows, and this is when it beautifies the lighting and the graphics by creating light maps. So it's baked in lighting, so it's light on resources, but still makes the map look so much better. Now, unfortunately, I don't know if has something to do with the fact that I'm using an AMD CPU or something like that, but there's something about my PC that this game doesn't like when it comes to rendering nighttime environments. It takes so long. Whoops, I actually accidentally left. Well, that's okay. Didn't mess with the light maps too badly, so that's okay. Yeah, every time you move stuff around, it will delete, some portions of the light maps. So you have to re-render the light maps. But this map looks a lot better. And yes, you do have to validate the map again. Because if you change the map, you have to validate it again. Okay, that is actually way better now that I moved that ramp back just one block. It's a huge difference. Yeah, okay, it seems like that's as fast as it's gonna be. Very simple, but no, I don't need to compute shadows. These ones are fine. This isn't a totally comprehensive tutorial. It's just to get you started, because you can explore things like adding different camera modes, for instance. So like you can place a block here, invisible block here, that when you go through it turns to first person mode, and you might want to do that sometimes when the terrain gets really complicated. In fact, and just to give you an example, okay, so that's first person. Yeah, so that's first person. So if we're going down, and let's say that there's a block that changes your camera, so it does it automatically, so it makes it easier to see the track when you're going through loops and other crazy stuff like that. Yeah, that was actually a lot straighter. I wonder if that's going to save me time. Nope. No, that's fine. Doesn't matter. Okay, then when we go to edit snapshot, let's have a nice cool sort of screenshot. Yeah, something like that. Cool. And then when you go back to play solo, or even when you play party play and other stuff like over the network and stuff, go to browse, and it should be here. Where is it? I called it slide. There it is. And then you can play, and you see these are the medals that people can collect, trying to get the best time possible. Of course, it's gonna compute shadows because apparently it's not happy that I removed some of those blocks without recomputing shadows, but that's TrackMania for you. It always does that. There's something about my PC that the night environment just takes so much longer to be rendered, and no, it's not an issue of I just need a faster computer. I do have a fast computer. In fact, my Core 2 Duo can render those light maps quicker. So there's definitely some compatibility thing going on. Oh my gosh. Ah. probably gonna get a silver medal. Not even, just a bronze. Yeah, this would actually be easier if I added that camera switching block, invisible block, so it's easier to see. Alright, let's try again. This time, need to keep the car steady. There we go. That's definitely a gold. Yeah. And that's it. That's how you build a track in TrackMania. I didn't cover everything, but just to give you an idea of the really cool stuff you can do in this game. So this is a map that, you know, every few months I'd go back to it, refine it until eventually it's at the point where I was happy with it. And yeah, so put a lot of effort into this map. On an older machine, this map just chugs. It really is just too much for period accurate PCs to handle. That being said, there is such a thing as having too many blocks in a map. Because even if you're running a modern gaming PC, you'll still have a bit of slowdown just because it's just too much for the engine to handle. Oh gosh. Alright. By the way, always make it possible for people to continue with the track from a checkpoint. If a checkpoint is like, let's say, right in front of a ramp, and you just need a lot of speed to go on that ramp to get over to another platform, then it's a badly placed checkpoint. Every single checkpoint must make it possible to continue a map, to finish a map, without respawning or restarting the map all the way to the beginning, because that can get annoying, especially when it comes to long maps like this. Maps don't have to be long, but this is probably the most ambitious map I've ever made, and as you can see, it's pretty crazy. It's a pretty insane map. So thank you all for watching, and until next time.